To register for an upcoming free workshop today, go to chawlalegal.com/workshops or call 586-273-7157. Hurry, seating is limited to 6 per workshop. You are live on Breaking Down the Ring. Are we speaking to the one, the only, the amazing referee, Brandon Tolle?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody.
What's up?
It is now afternoon, yes, for us. Is it afternoon for you where you reside, sir?
No, it is still morning where I reside, but close enough. So.
Nice. Mr. Tolle, first off, thank you so much for calling in. It's a pleasure talking to you. You are doing many great things on the referee scene. You're one of the people that referee Jimmy Corderas put over in a tweet about some of the amazing officials that he feels are being underutilized. But, sir, underutilized. You're on Evolve. You're doing all of the Impact tapings and Impact shows, Bound for Glory in Chicago on October 20th, Evolve 135 and 136, October 11th and 12th. Then the Impact TV tapings at the end of October in Windsor. And as well as Shimmer and doing Progress, Chapter 98 in London on November 24th. How is the referee schedule treating you? Because it seems like the referee schedule is as intense and insane as a professional wrestler schedule.
It is. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still an independent contractor, so I am free to work pretty much wherever I want. So it's basically me and to the hustle that I have, and for all the years that I've been doing this, and the business relationships I've put together with the different companies to generate some really good opportunities, like going back over to London in November, working for Progress. The 2 days before that, I'm debuting for WXW in Gotha and Dresden, Germany. And to be able to do Impact and to keep on their schedule, Evolve, and the Evolve schedule, it's just like anybody else that's, that is a 1099, I only have to answer to one person and I have to answer to myself. And so I just decided that I want to see the world. So I am making it my endeavor to try to do so.
Which is awesome. And especially you're working for such great companies, on the rise companies, especially right now with Impact starting their television tapings on Tuesday nights on Access TV. Evolve, which a lot of people are saying is the brand new kind of developmental for WWE, because since NXT has moved to a 2-hour show on USA. As a referee, is there a company that you specifically just love more because of like the backstage aura, or is all of it different enough to where you feel the same type of goosebumps and flair type things for being there in that area?
That's a tough question because, each company obviously is going to do business in their own way. So it's more of, so Evolve, no pun intended, actually, has evolved over the years. I've been with Evolve for over 8 years now. And I've been through pretty much every incarnation in that company, back to when records mattered, to the incarnation of the Evolve title, to the incarnation that was the more the ground-based, the more wrestling, like Timothy Thatcher, who just won the WXW title, Sabre Jr., Walter, Drew Gulak, those guys, to now where we are in this relationship with WWE via NXT. And now, so you're seeing a mix of up-and-comers from the independents and a couple of mainstays from Evolve, and then you're seeing the NXT guys as they are coming in. So it's really it's ice cream, basically. If you want that flavor of ice cream for you. Impact has. We actually, and I saw it a couple weeks ago, we released a T-shirt based off of this. Impact Wrestling, hard to kill. We're never going to die. So, that is, a company that has been around for so many years, and, we continuously put on banger show after banger show after banger show after quality TV after quality pay-per-view, but when we don't get the recognition that I feel that we should be getting as a company for what we've been doing over the past couple of years. Well, now we have the platform coming where we're going to be on that big platform with Access TV to be able to showcase that to, I mean, you name it. There is no set standard now of what a company is going to bring to the table or what a locker room is going to be like. It's all different flavors of ice cream, and that's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of how, when you look at the landscape now of the wrestling business, now that we are in, my opinion, the next wrestling boom as of this past week. And when you look at the landscape of everything that's on television, whether it's Raw, SmackDown, NXT, Impact, AEW, whatever the case may be, it's all different flavors of ice cream.
Yes.
So it's take your pick. Based on what you like, take your pick.
So I wanted to ask you, Impact has been getting a lot of recognition for the type of match quality and everything going on with Tessa Blanchard being in a main event on the pay-per-view, in an intergender match, to just the movement of everything. A lot of our good friends here in Michigan are now starting to be heavily featured on Impact. Our good friend Rohit Raju, he's definitely a big player in there. Impact now coming in on a Tuesday night, in between the Monday Night Raw and the Wednesday Night Wars. Do you think that Impact has enough to keep up with the ratings boom? Because everyone's talking ratings right now, with SmackDown pulling that 3.8 and the 1.4 for AEW Dynamite, especially being on Access TV, which before was a huge home to New Japan Wrestling when it was doing all of the stuff with them. Do you think that Impact has enough to keep up in the ratings, and down the line with the product, do you think it could possibly take over in popularity from one of these shows?
I don't think ratings really matter in a sense. Once again, I'd like to go back to my flavors of ice cream comment. Mm-hmm. When you look at it, I mean, people can like more than one type of ice cream.
Right.
So, I mean, let's look at it from the aspect of, I mean, WWE's, the top dog. They're the number one game in town.
Right.
Why should we try to compete with it? And I think in an Impact, honestly, I think it's been one of the things that has been one of the biggest upswings is we're not competing with WWE. We do not see WWE as competition. We're doing our own thing. We're staying in our own lane. And that's what gives us the ability to be able to do what we want, and to be able to have the television that we want, creating an alternative.
Okay.
And creating, we don't, I mean, obviously in the nature of business, there's going to be competition, and that benefits everybody, but not competition necessarily think, hey, we need to overtake this company, or, hey, I mean, we've all learned, I mean, we look back to the last wrestling war. I mean, that was one of the detriments to WCW, was that they were bent on putting WWE out of business. It didn't happen. And what ultimately happened was, so we're going to do we're going to do our own thing.
We lost you for a second there. Sorry for interrupting. We lost you for a second there. Just on what ultimately happened was.
Well, that was WCW went out of business.
Okay, yeah.
So we're going to stay in our own lane. We're going to do our own thing. We're going to cultivate our product for what we're doing, and not with the intent of trying to overtake another company. I mean, if the quality is there and the in-ring is there, it's going to draw eyes. Obviously, it has, considering all the buzz that we've been getting, for what we've been doing the past couple of years. And now that's put us in a position to be able to now be on a bigger platform with Access TV. So I wouldn't necessarily think of us sitting around, and I say we're not sitting around looking at, hey, can we overtake who is perceived to be ahead of us? That doesn't do us any good. Why worry about what's going on in someone else's home when you need to worry about your home first? Right.
Exactly. Now, that being said, you're working the Evolve show coming up, Evolve 135 in Atlanta, Evolve 136 in Charlotte. when you get to Evolve, obviously it's a much smaller setting than the Impact and stuff. Is this? Do you prefer these type of settings, or do you prefer the larger crowd for yourself?
It doesn't really matter to me because that doesn't change how I work. It doesn't change what I do bell to bell. I mean, whether it's a smaller crowd at Evolve or like when I was in New York a few weeks ago, and I had the fortune to see and the opportunity to work the AAA show at the Hulu Theater at Madison Square Garden, and
Nice.
that was, I think, somewhere around 4,000 or so that was there. I didn't get the official number. I think it was somewhere in that ballpark. And that's this point the largest crowd I've ever worked in front of. So it doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't change the way I approach what I do. And it doesn't, obviously there may be that moment where you hear the roar or something like that and you have like a goosebumps sort of moment. But from an in-ring standpoint, it doesn't really change. It doesn't really matter to me because you want to give the fans the best product possible and you want to give them the best show possible. And so you can't really change the way you operate regardless of crowd size.
Okay. So now let's talk a little bit about something that we have had a major problem with in professional wrestling currently. AEW has, to us, and apparently a lot of people, even your friend Jimmy Corderas has had conversations about this. The officiating in AEW seems to be, I don't want to say it sucks, right?
Lacking.
I don't even want to say it's lacking. The thing with it is hasn't been on, for us, the audience, a set rule situation to where we know what to follow. And so therefore things like Jon Moxley coming in and attacking Kenny Omega at the end of AEW Dynamite, the no countouts for the women's championship match, but the chair had to be pulled out of Nyla Rose's hand, to the point where even back on the free pay-per-views they were showing, when Marco Stunt was involving himself in Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy's match, and the ref saying, no, you can't do that, but Luchasaurus going, yeah, you can, and then Marco Stunt being involved. Do you think that this is a problem for AEW and could affect them in a negative way in the future, or are we just seeing things that need to be ironed out?
It's really going to depend on what the brain trust at AEW has. I mean, whether it's something that they've considered or if it's something that they plan to address. I mean, I'm not in those conversations, obviously, so I don't know. But it's, once again, it's a different flavors of ice cream concept, I mean, but obviously, if there's such an uproar about it, and in all fairness, I have not seen anything AEW related, so I can't speak to whether they have actually gone out and actually formally addressed, whether it's via commentary or something in some kind of a platform to be able to say, hey, these are our differentiators in our rules. An example would be in Evolve, and we've made it known. Now, there's still some people out there that'll still try to, ride the refs for this. But in Evolve, we don't have count out outside the ring. It's referee's discretion on a disqualification. So with not having a count out, I reserve the right to handle that how I see fit, whether I want to throw the match out on a DQ or not. But we had to make that known that is something that we do specifically at Evolve.
Right.
So it's going to come down to, has AEW been able to actually specifically address that, or is it something that, who knows? You know what I mean? Once again, I'm not in those conversations, so I don't know whether it's something they plan to address or something they don't plan to address. But you see a lot of talk about it because it's just ambiguous. So it's going to come down to what is the direction that they are going to take, and hopefully that clears up some of the ambiguity behind it. But once again, it's a flavors of ice cream concept. But still, if it's a different flavor of ice cream, you have to define what your flavor is.
Understandable. Now, I want to ask you a little bit about your background. Reffing doesn't seem to be it sounds to me as something where you kind of fall into, but is it something that you want to do, or were you trying to be like a professional wrestler and someone else used you as a referee? Where did you get your start in the business?
I got my start down in southern Kentucky. Down in like my first show was in a little town called Hazard, Kentucky, way down in the southeastern part of Kentucky. Because I'm born and raised.
I'm sorry for interrupting
Cincinnati.
real quick. Hazard, like the Dukes of Hazard.
Yes,
Nice.
it's Hazard, Hazard,
Nice.
Kentucky.
Awesome.
All right, continue. I'm sorry.
Like, everyone has that story. Like Mick Foley, like they talked about it when he won his first WWE title. Like his first show was in like Pinewood, West Virginia. Like everybody's got that story. There's that just really weird out of the way town that they had their first show in. So mine was Hazard, Kentucky, and I had been training. Paying my dues. So it was through a Christian company that's no longer around. But I was training, and then I would go to shows, build rings, pay dues, train, and I was bumping, and I was learning how to be a wrestler. There wasn't really a defined career path at that point. It was just getting feet wet and just learning. And I went to a show, and the promoter at the show had forgot to book a referee. So my trainer was on the show, and he came up to me and he's like, "Do you want to ref?" And I was like, "Yeah, I have stripes with me." So I got in the ring and did my, because I did my first show. Because part of the training, at least the training that I did, was not only bumping and all that, but I mean, it's you got to know the rules, and you got to know how to play within the rules to learn how to bend the rules or to learn how to break the rules. You have to know what box you're playing in.
Right. Yeah.
So knowing a solid foundation, went in and did the show and got in the ring, and I was the only ref that night. So my first show was an Iron Man, and it just felt natural when I got in there, and my trainer was just stunned. And when I got back to the back, my trainer just looked at me after the show. He's like, "I think we found your calling." And I was like, "I agree." So, I mean, even after that, I still trained in how to bump because I still need to be able to protect myself. I mean, once you step through those ropes, anything can happen, and we've seen it over time. I mean, you look at Tommy Young, and Tommy Young's career ended on a freak accident. That wasn't even like something that, you plan for. So you have to be able to protect yourself within there. So, I mean, I still bumped and learned how to do rolls and stuff like that because, just to protect myself. But at that point, it became more just starting to learn the craft of refereeing and the finer points and, really, just taking it as this is my career path now, and I want to make the absolute most out of it. So that is kind of how I got my start many, many moons ago.
And refs that bump are the best refs.
Yeah, easily.
Bumping is an art form. I mean, it can be done very well, and it can be done very poorly.
It's like a flavor of ice cream.
But or bumping too much. Bumping too much is also, it can also be my opinion, can be a detriment to it as well. But I mean, it's just, once again, we as referees, we have, I like to think of it, tools in a tool bag to be able to help tell the story that's being told in the ring. My name's never going to be on a marquee. My name is never going to sell tickets to a show, but I can be in there to help the talent tell the story, whatever story it is that they're telling. And I can use the tools that I've learned from my craft over the years to be able to help that and to be able to accent whatever story is being told on a nightly basis. And I take a lot of pride in saying that I'm very, very good at what I do and being able to be there for the talent, but not be a distraction from the story that they are telling.
So as a referee, obviously it is a situation to where, many times the referee is the one who is to be seen, but not heard. Like he blends into the match seamlessly is one of the things that we have always been talked or seen. Is there anyone that you think does it the best, or do you think, I'm the fucking best? Because, you're allowed to put yourself over.
Well, there are people that have done it way longer than I have that have done it way better than I have on higher levels. So, like when I had caught wind that Jimmy had mentioned me in that tweet, and I responded, and I was very honored to be mentioned in the group of that, because actually Jimmy, obviously we all know where he's been and what he's done, but I had the fortune of working with Jimmy, I think, on one of his first shows out after he left WWE. It was for Border City Wrestling, or I think it was maybe Maximum Pro Wrestling or Max Pro at the time, when I was working up in Canada. So I've known Jimmy for a long time, so I appreciated the compliment from him. But I mean, when I look at wrestling, I agree. The best ref is one that's not seen, because then it means more when the ref becomes part of it, whether it's with whatever the case may be, when it's time for us to be able to help tell that story, however it may be. But I mean, when I say look at the refs on there now, I talk about guys like Jason Ayers, who's on SmackDown Live. I talk about Chad Patton, John Cone. And then I also say go back and watch the old school stuff. Watch Earl Hebner when he was in his prime, not Earl Hebner, TNA or anything like that. Watch Earl when he was in his prime. Tommy Young. Go back and watch. Why is his name blanking me real quick?
Because
Nick
we
Patrick.
put you on the spot. That's
just I'm trying to. I was racking my brain. But
Tim White. Talking about Tim White.
Danny Davis.
Say again.
We're talking about Tim
Danny
White.
Davis. Yeah, Danny Davis. Watch Jimmy's stuff. Like I like to You can never. And I say this as a ref because I'm never going to be able to duplicate and be Jimmy Corderas or be Earl Hebner or be, Nick Patrick or Chad Patton or Jason Ayers. I can't be them, but I can take stuff of everybody's and figure out what works best for me to be able to be the best that I can, to at least be put in that conversation and learn from the people that have paved the path ahead of me. And that's really what I've done is is try to be a little bit of everything. I mean, personally for me, I'm old school at heart. I'm an 80s. I'm in my mid 30s. I'm an 80. I'm a mid 80s baby. So, I mean, my heart still is in the 80s and the 90s, 90s wrestling. But I definitely, I took a little bit from here. I have a big booming voice, and if anybody's been in a show or in a big hollow building, hear my voice at every part of the room, and I kind of took that from Earl Hebner. You could always hear Earl's voice when he was working matches in his prime, whether it was a command or a count or anything like that. I took a little bit of that. I used to count before I had shoulder surgery a few years ago. I used to count on my side, and that was more of a Scott Armstrong thing that I did that I liked. That kind of worked for me. So I just take little bits of here, little bits of there, and just kind of meld it, see what fits.
All right.
Just like a wrestler in that sense, you take a little bit of what you do well and mix it with a little bit of your own and kind of make it your own.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing is this, because you never want to be the second of anything. You want to be the first of something.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I can never do like Jason Ayers. I could never do Jason Ayers better than Jason Ayers. It's just never going to happen.
Right.
I can never do Earl Hebner better than Earl Hebner. So why try to be second at anything when I want to be the best at something? And so I'm going to be the best me that I can.
Now, the final question that I have for you is, obviously you've done Evolve. We talked about Impact, but you're also being a ref for some of the Shimmer shows. Is there a difference in reffing an all women show versus a mixed gender show, or is is a women's match different, or is it basically I'm the same? I'm here to blend in no matter what, if it's a men's match or a women's match.
No, it doesn't change. I'm there to do my job, and I'm there to help tell the story, and I'm here to help to blend in. That I'd like to think that's kind of one of my strengths as a referee, especially nowadays in the landscape of professional wrestling that we're in. Is I'm the ref that is forgettable. I'm the ref that you may know, like a Bryce Remsburg, or you may know other refs, but even though I've been around for years, you keep saying who is him or nobody knows who you are. Like I can just blend into a crowd, and not get noticed. That's perfect, because that means I'm doing my job right. I'm not a gimmick. I'm not becoming a center of attention until it's time to.
Right.
It doesn't, the type of wrestling, whether it's, straight female, whether it's all male, whether it's intergender, whether it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the way I work. It's still the same premise. I go in with the same mindset, with the same goals. My work is the same. It's consistent, regardless of where you go. Obviously different companies may have different rule changes, like we talked about with Evolve earlier, but it doesn't really change the way I approach it, regardless of where it is, whether it's Shimmer, Evolve, Impact, Progress, WXW. It doesn't matter across. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change the way I approach it.
Nice. We ask one question, final question for everyone that calls into our show, and that question is about ribs. In professional wrestling, ribs are part of the fun locker room culture. Is it the same type of thing for refs? And if so, what is the best rib that you have ever pulled on somebody, and what is the best rib that anyone's ever pulled on you?
I gotta think about this for a moment. Ribs, to be honest, ribs are just ribs are just kind of just, I don't want to say they're of an era gone by, but it's not something that is done like it was a long time. Like, the business has changed from, because you hear all the stories from the 80s and all that, when guys, there wasn't internet, there wasn't phone access like there is now. It was just them. And
right.
The business has changed a lot now, obviously, with the advent of technology and everything like that. So, ribs don't really happen a whole lot. I'm not a ribber. I have a very dry sense of humor. So I'm one of the last people in the world that you'll ever see pull a rib on anybody, because I'm not good at doing it, and you'll see it coming a mile away. So I don't really have a good story of a rib I pulled, because it's not me. I can tell you the story of a rib that I saw pulled that I thought was funny.
Yes,
back
please.
in 2000, oh good Lord, 2000 and I think it might have been 2008. I was at a TNA house show the night before they did the pay-per-view in Oshawa, Ontario.
Auschwitz?
They had a house show in London. Ontario.
Okay.
And it was Abyss and Rhino in a singles match. And I was backstage at the house show, and I was watching through the curtain, just watching straight down the aisle. And Rhino had Abyss in a rest hold. And as they were laying there, I see some movement, and I look, and I'm like, what is he doing? Well, Abyss is just in the rest hold, starts to unlace Rhino's boot right there in the middle of the ring. And he's oblivious to it. He doesn't know it because Abyss is bigger, just taller than him. So he's not seeing. So this goes on till Abyss gets about halfway down his boot, and then Rhino picks up on it, and eventually gets to the road, and they continue on. But now here's Rhino working the rest of this match with half of his boot undone and his laces just hanging out right there around it, because he was just oblivious to it for about a minute and a half or so while they were in this rest hold. On that one, I was just like, wow. Just out of nowhere, just no reason. Nothing happened before that to warrant it. It was just out of nowhere. Just, okay, hey, I'm just going to start unlacing this guy's boot right here in the middle of this rest hold.
That's fucking nuts, man.
The original RKO out of nowhere.
Right. All right, Mr. Tolle,
Exactly.
thank you. We want to say thank you so much for calling in and talking with us here on Breaking Down the Ring. Let the people know where they can find you on social media and what you have coming up next.
I do not have a Facebook. I've not had a Facebook for almost 10 years now.
Good for you.
Attaboy.
One of the few, but my Twitter is at Ref Brandon Tolle, Tolle. I got Evolve next weekend, Charlotte and Atlanta, and then Chicago, Bound for Glory the weekend after that. Actually, it's 3 days. We got Prelude to Glory on Friday in South Bend, Indiana. We have All Glory Saturday in Marionette Park, Illinois, and then Bound for Glory on Sunday, the 20th, and then coming back to Detroit neck of the woods, Windsor for TV. For Impact TV, the 25th and the 26th, and Evolve's back in the Detroit area. We're up in Livonia. I think it's December the 7th. I think it's Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. It's the December 7th. So we're going to be back up in the Detroit area for a little bit coming up. So I will have to ask. I have to ask if any Tigers fans?
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
Not this year.
I'm a Tiger fan every year.
I understand the feeling. It comes and goes. There was a time where I was working up in Detroit and Windsor more than I was anywhere else. So I actually I've done a couple of Tigers home openers. I have actually in my closet. I was just moving stuff around here at home a couple weeks ago. I found I've got a Verlander and a Granderson home Detroit jersey.
Awesome.
Just in my closet still from like 10 years ago. And I just looked at it, I was like, wow. I was like, man, the days of Granderson playing there. So I thought I'd throw that out there. So, follow the Tigers a little covertly, but, so catch me in Detroit, Windsor coming up here in October, November, December. Be around. So thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Mr. Tolle. Thank you again so much for calling in, and we hope to see you in the near future. When the Evolve comes into town, we're going to be there at the show.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
All right, you too, sir. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.